So next up, it's my pleasure to introduce Richard Wilson, resource consultant at Strands. Currently based at the Strands London office, Richard has vast experience in banking and worked in both the financial crime field and also personalized banking engagement platforms. In his role, Richard engages with activities for existing and prospective customers as a subject matter expert to build and demonstrate solutions in the areas of customer engagement and digital banking. He's originally from South Africa and is an avid rugby fan. In his spare time, he runs and has completed a number of marathons, including 5 ultra marathons, most recently the Comrades Marathon, which is, wow, 90 kilometers long. Over to you, Richard.
Thanks, Daniel, and thanks for having me. Yeah, I've enjoyed some of the sessions from today. As Daniel mentioned, my name is Richard Wilson, and I'm part of the Strands team. So today, what we'll go through really is just sort of an overview of the company, sort of what we're trying to achieve as a company, maybe go through a couple of use cases, and then I'll show you a couple of live demos, and sort of maybe take it from there. So Strands as a company, we were sort of formed in 2004. Our head office is in Barcelona. We have about 150 employees, across 4 different offices across the globe, serving quite a wide range of customers. Obviously, financial institutions, as you can see, quite a few household names, but also we've seen quite a shift in also, companies engaging with sort of personalization and financial management, and even more sort of loan providers, new signatures coming from smaller sort of, asset providers, etc. If we look in the center, we can see a company called CRIF. CRIF is basically, was a customer of ours. They're based in Italy as a sort of credit bureau, and started reselling our solutions. And almost a year ago, after using our solutions, CRIF actually acquired Strands, so bringing us into a sort of broader group and enabling us to serve some different features and leverage some of their products too. So I'll let you just spend 20 seconds just to sort of absorb this, because there's quite a lot of information on this slide. But really, it's what we're trying to achieve. So if you just want to take 10 seconds to sort of see what we're all about. So Johan was just mentioning, how trust is quite important, and how quickly that can be broken. From our point of view, what we're trying to achieve as a company is, partner with our customers, enable them to leverage, their data or, additional data that's around, and that's available to them, and actually provide their end users with that financial wellness to enable that personalization, and to help, not just, we started in retail, but also, the small business arena, where we can actually provide some easy to understand, intuitive tools to enable them, to have that financial wellness, have personalization, and, that enable customers to move forward with ease, basically. So I'm just going to hold a quick poll just to get, your opinions. Quite important to me, and it's quite a a common question. But what percentage of customers feel that they have been treated fairly by their bank? So I'll leave you to take some time and just think about that. Okay, so while we wait for those results, I'm going to move on. So our Strands, we developed this platform where we are looking at, providing our customers with different solutions depending on their strategy. So we traditionally started around the retail PFM side and financial management. So, in this sort of turquoise area, that's where we started, and quickly realized that, there was also a very big need for business finance management. And the next step really in this evolution of, providing this information to customers was really, the personalization, insights that are actually relevant and timely to customers on their behavior and on their data. And that's where our Engager solution was born. And then, not just the end user that's looking for these sort of information, but also, the merchants that are working with banks to actually understand how they can interact with their customers, provide offers, and using workflows, etc. And then we have our Strands Open Hub, which again is almost across the platform, which is bringing in these third-party data, with open banking, accounting, software vendors, to actually supplement the offerings that we're providing. So I think those results should be available now. So what we're seeing, and it was, again, it's quite split across the board. Most people think 30%, and that would have been 70%, sorry, which would have been my, sort of my opinion too. But actually, it's, in a recent survey, over 90% of people feel like they were mistreated by their bank. And I think, it's become a slight, almost a cliche, where customers are, feel that they've been neglected, especially the small business market. I believe that's come a long way, and I think there's been a lot of attention in small business, and we're seeing that in the market where banks, not the traditional bigger banks and smaller sort of startup banks are actually trying to tap into this market, because there's a lot of, obviously, it's quite lucrative and it's been underserved, and it's, I think that trust is trying to be rebuilt, and these services are now being trying to provide it to this segment again. So today's focus really will be around the BFM, because I think this is where there's quite a big opportunity. We're seeing quite a lot of, activity in this segment in the market, and just really going through a couple of use cases from our customers, and I'll show you a demo on the financial management and sort of how we're trying to address and provide, these different features to customers dependent on their strategy. We'll also focus on the insights and show how we take that engagement to the next level, and how customers are using that personalization to actually provide customers with, that next step and an action on the back of, their behavior and on these models that we are driving through the data available. And a couple of these use cases will also include, the third-party integrations that we've done, depending on customer needs, that we are continuously adding, with this world of APIs, providing these connections and this additional data sources where we can be more accurate in cash flow, or provide additional information to users where they are actually, having a broader view, and also incorporating different services where a bank can actually start providing one ecosystem, through their mobile banking as a service. Okay, so I'm going to go through a couple of customer use cases. The first one being Hsbc Kinetic. It's a new brand from Hsbc, launched in the UK. So what they're trying to achieve is, they saw that the market, and the segment wasn't, being served that well. They launched this new product to be insight driven, to be personalized, to actually focus on their customer. As Johanna was talking about earlier, onboarding, making that simpler and quicker, using actually, the information available to them to serve that to their customers, to help them with their cash flow, to provide them with, integrations into third parties, and then, insights on the back of that. So they've, built this tool, they've integrated it into different services, and providing, integration into accounting software, to remove, that there's legacy issues, and, the need to have different systems. It's mobile first, but also available on the web, and they're using, these insights on cash flow, showing what merchants are, their spends are at, any dependent on what your activity is, that they're trying to personalize, that activity, and, put their customer first. So it's been a very successful initiative, and they're looking, I think, at rolling this out, into different regions of the world. A second example is a bank in Asia that's one of our customers. This is a multi-currency, multi-country deployment where they, serving, different areas, and they focus predominantly on invoicing and providing additional services around that small business and invoicing. They've included things like QR payments integrated into their invoicing. They've integrated into third parties too to get that additional data source, but also into the PayPal network, which I believe is a first in Asia for a bank. And what they're doing is using this e-invoicing to streamline their customer experience. It's a more eco-friendly, service. It's digital. It's where things are going, but it's also saving their customers time, preventing any fraud, any human error. So really actually putting, enabling their customers to have a better service and a slightly different strategy on how they're doing things. But I think it's quite an interesting one, where different markets are going and what people are doing dependent on their strategy. And again, it's not a focus where people are just going one area, but it's all, it's these phased approaches, focusing on something, doing it well, and then moving to the next sort of phase and the next innovation, adding some personalization or adding some different features dependent on what they're seeing and what their strategy as a bank is. And then the third example is again more around integrations. This is another customer of ours that looked that they wanted to do integrations into the accounting providers, but not just pull that invoicing data down, but rather and use that information to understand their cash flow and to provide this information to customers. But what they wanted to address too was actually helping their customers, again, with their time, stop them having to do these calculations or manual reconciliations, within their accounting providers. So with some of these APIs that are available, they're actually pushing transactions back to the accounting providers, where the reconciliation can then happen automatically, and they can remove that manual process and have a clear view of their status. They're also integrating into a sort of a receipts provider, which we sort of supported them on, and using these sort of uploading these receipts that they can actually be then matched and actually used in their financial analysis. And they're also actually giving their customers the ability to create invoices on the go from their mobile banking. So this is a feature of ours where you can actually create an invoice, have a dashboard, understand what's happening, see what's overdue, and really, be able to create invoices on the go, understand your cash flow, and all this data is being used, part of their, their customers sort of, 360 view, really. So I just want to run a second poll about, what percentage of customers would consider switching banks due to lack of personalization. So I think, this is quite an interesting one. And again, I'd like to see your opinions and what people believe. So what we'll do is, I think while we wait for these results, I would like to show you the demo that we have just designed. So if you give me 1 second, I'll share my screen. Okay, so you should be seeing my screen now. Okay, so what we're seeing here is really our Bfm demo. This is, again, you can picture this. Our product is a white label product. We've developed some of these features for our customers, to use. We have some widgets that are available to be leveraged, or we can, they can leverage APIs and that data and present this in their apps wherever they would like. So I could spend quite a lot of time here. So, just in the interest of time, I'm going to actually just focus on around about 5 areas. But what we would traditionally see, when you log into your internet banking or your mobile banking is a view of your accounts, potentially, across the top with some sort of statement or, interaction. We can still, part of our sort of core offering is understanding, that data, running it through our categorization engine and enriching that data. So looking, at the data, running our models on, sort of pattern deviation, understanding the recurring patterns, behavior change, forecasting. So we're running all these different models to understand, not just present that data in a static piece, but also understand, what's happened in this data. We can see, we've got a few different ways that we can present this data. We've tagged this, got a different icon on this one, just showing that this is a recurring payment. And all these transactions, we can actually click on them and actually see the history. We can see the categorization. We can allow customers to add tags if they want to search for something or make it more visible or pull a report. They can recategorize this. So there's a lot of flexibility in this view or this categorization of transactions. And again, we can aggregate accounts. We can filter on different on months and provide them with a view of what's happening on their accounts. As I said, we've got these different widgets. This is what we call our dashboard, where we have a view of a lot of the features, but we're also providing customers with the ability to, put these different sort of widgets in different areas dependent on their strategy and their needs. And as I said, some are actually using our APIs to develop the front end themselves. And what we've also got here is just, an indication of the cash flow. I think this is a very important piece that's, a lot of banks are trying to tackle for their customers. And it's really about how you can show that transparency and, for customers to understand where they are. And if we look at this cash position, we can see, what's happened in the past. So we're giving us sort of a look back, but also what's currently happening in the account, what's happened at the moment, and also an expectation of what we are actually expecting to see. So we can actually drill down and actually see that, in a couple of days, we expect, some salary payments to come out this business account. What's been spent and what we expect to happen, and the history of that expense, and then what we're predicting in the future. We also have a balance tracker, which could present things slightly differently, and different techniques. If the account goes into overdraft, we can change, the user experience to maybe a different color. And if we foresee any issues, we may actually, warn the customer that there might be a problem coming, so that they understand what's happening in their account. And again, these all can be filtered on with different views. And it's just trying to provide the end user with the ability to have that quick view and understanding of what's happening in their account, but also provide them with the information, if something is predicted, where we get that prediction from, so they can actually make, that the calculation up and make sure that they are where they believe they are. We have a financial calendar, which also has the sort of feed mechanism. So we can see what's happening on a day-to-day basis. For here, we can see that there is, an invoice that's been partly reconciled. We can, provide that information, and the customer can reconcile that, partly reconcile that or split that transaction. We've seen different, incoming and what's expected on the account. So we can see that there's been a payment and the history of that expense. And just, give them sort of a view of where they are, at the moment. We can go, by day. We can see that there's a payment that was expected that didn't come in. So, that might be something that the customer needs to follow up on. So just providing them with this additional information of, what we're predicting, what we're expecting, so that they can actually action this without having to dig too deep, but have this all available at their fingertips and provide them with that ability to be, financially strong, and also, concentrate on their business and not, worry about their finances too much. Another area that we mentioned before, where a lot of customers are trying to provide additional services to the end user, is around invoicing. On the invoicing, we can see, this customer is actually having, quite a few issues with, customers not paying. We can see, what's outstanding. If there was a good, record of payment, we could see their sort of top paying customers and who's sort of paying on time. But it's just giving them the ability to see, what's happening on these invoices. If they want to follow something up, they can open an invoice, see that detail, and actually even, PDF this if they would like to actually, send this on as a, to their customers. They can then forward that on via email, etc. And, just have that ability and that freedom to understand what's happening within their accounts. I also mentioned one of our customers is using our invoicing module to actually create invoices. So this is the ability for customers to create an invoice, from their banking app. All this information, they can create new items, and they can, have the sort of the template ready, but, to enable them to be on the move, to create invoices, if it's somebody that's, invoicing, via mobile, or if they want to create it, in the office and send that, via, any means, but having, the ability to set the dates, the terms, add any notes, and then, send these on to their customers by, reviewing them and creating them, and then having that invoice, within their system. So it's just really providing customers with the ability to have additional services within their banking, not just a traditional, what's my sort of in and outs, the basic, categorization, which we do provide, the analysis, of the breakdown of what's happening in the account. Our categorization is obviously very strong. We're providing, two level of categorization, so we can actually see what's happening within that account, and give that customer the ability to again, have a view, and but still providing the traditional budgets, provisioning, and the rest of it. So I think that's a good area to move on. The last thing I just want to do is show you is that we've also got the ability, although we're automating everything, because we've seen, that engagement level goes up with automation, we do have the ability to provide options to our customers, so that they can decide what their strategy is. For instance, with the recurring pattern detection, we understand that, we're picking up these patterns, and their frequency, but also giving customers the ability to actually approve, because it might be something like some cash withdrawals that are actually recurring payments that they want to include, because it's something that they know they're going to be doing for, in the future, and it is something that they want to include in the cash flow, and then that would be, approved and included in their cash flow. But but also there may be something that we're detecting, with, for instance, a hotel, payment, maybe this person's not traveling due to the pandemic, and this is not something that will be going on in the future, and they will then decide not to include that. So that's the really a sort of a quick overview. I could talk, quite a while on the different features, but a quick overview of our BFM, and I'll just show you too while we're here is, some of the insights that we're providing customers. So, the pattern detections, and, understanding what's happening, but also, looking at the accounts and understanding the liquidity, any low balance issues, but providing then an action for the customers to be able to do something. So if they would like to increase their limit, speak to a relationship manager, and just understand what's happening on their account. And then looking at, the customer's sort of account, what they're doing, understanding their transactions and merchants, and providing them with the ability to actually action a discount, or to actually go to a product within your website, and the ability to do this themselves. So just a quick view of the insights, and you'll go into more detail, and I'll show you our business tool that we can manage those insights on too. So just going back to the presentation. So I asked you about the percentage of customers that we consider personalization, and yeah, slightly higher this time with 60%, on where everyone might think that might be, but really it's around 40% of customers that would consider switching banks. I think this is quite a not surprising stat, because I think of of where we are and where people are with personalization, but it's, for me, it's quite it's how far we've come from that to that 40%. A couple of years ago, people were very wary of personalization, and what that meant for them and their accounts, and the privacy around that. But more and more people are actually wanting to understand their accounts for personalization to happen. People are tired of mass mailings via post, or email inboxes are filling up with just junk mail that people are not focusing on, and it's really just providing people with not just being cold called or additional, but something that's relevant to them, something that they can actually action and have the ability to do something about. So it's really where the market is shifted, and that next level of engagement from the financial management, giving them that next step to be able to provide that trust and etc. So that leads us onto our Engager product, which is our insights engine. What we've done is, I just wanted to give you a quick view of almost the flow of our sort of Engager product. Again, this is a slightly busy slide, but and it's quite self-explanatory, but just really, data is obviously the paramount piece here. If a bank's already got their own categorized data, that's great, we can leverage that. But if not, we're using that bank data, or that third-party data, if it's open banking, etc. And we can, either you have a sort of batch process, or real-time interface into our solution, where we're running this categorization and enrichment of that data. So adding any of those recurring, those models to understand those recurring payments, any activity change, etc. And that will then go into our insights sort of engine and processor. This is where, depending on the business strategy, what insights are important to you. We have a library of insights that we can leverage, for the bank and customized for their needs. But then also the ability at the bottom here in the back office for the business to be able to create these insights from templates, and to adjust that content or triggers accordingly. From there, once insights have triggered, it goes into our selector, which is our relevancy engine. And this is just to help prevent that saturation of the channels. As much as people want personalization, it's quite a balance about providing them with the right amount of information that's important to them, and not flooding them with a lot of messages that might be irrelevant, or something that they already know. So it's around controlling that flow of insights, understanding what's important in sort of different scoring and mechanisms, and then providing them with the ability to rate those insights and to provide feedback. So that feedback can be then taken back into that relevancy engine, and personalized for the customer's next interaction, if there's something that they're enjoying, some insights that they're interacting well with, or not reacting with. And also it goes that information will go into the back office for the business users to understand how that looks. So the the idea behind the insights is really to make provide customers with information that's important to them, but also recommend their next best action. We've seen customers really, the success of this insights and personalization, that trust goes up because customers are actually understand the bank is providing them with information that's important and personal to them. We've seen time in app go up because they're looking for that next interaction. They're trying to understand, they're getting that quick view of their accounts, but then getting an insight that is actually helping them, with a product that maybe they didn't know about, to warn them about a duplicate payment. Maybe that's something they've been charged twice, and maybe or not, to have that payment that hasn't come in that they're expecting. And we've seen satisfaction go up. And on the back of all these, good metrics that are sort of sometimes more than doubling, we're seeing the customer retention and also attracting new customers dependent on the strategies. There's a number of different ways to present, these insights. And what we've also seen is, dependent on that strategy, but the more forefront, as a, near login or one click away, is the better engagement from customers. I know we are running a little bit low in time, but I just wanted to show you the business tool that we do have for our customers. So it'll be just a quick demo of the business tool. If you bear with me 1 second. So what we have here is our back office tool, and I'll just focus on sort of 3 areas. But what it's giving us here is a dashboard view of what insights have been triggered, how many have been viewed, the actions that have been taken, and the feedback. We can see what insights are being, getting the worst feedback, the best feedback, but just to give the user that system view of how it's performing and the ability for them to actually understand, where things are going. We do have this, the insights that are all available, where we can actually provide customers with the ability to, the business users with the ability to actually adjust these. We can see on an insight level how many have triggered. Again, we can change the duration, but also provide them with the ability to enable something, disable it, rename these the titles to be something more, change their priority, and adjust triggers so that they can actually understand what's happening, as well as the content. So, quite often we've seen customers as a project team or as a strategy, come up with a few different ideas. And once that goes live, then it's not quite performing as they expected. And sometimes it's just tweak of a threshold or some text that actually then changes that whole interaction with that insight. And then the ability to add actions through different either internal, or external actions. And again, the ability to create insights from the different templates that we have available for customers then to be able to, not rely on us as a vendor to enforce their strategy, but to actually move forward on their own, and to be independent and not just require us to make any small changes or create new insights for them. And then just to quick touch on the categorization, we also within this tool have our accuracy and level of what's happening on the categorization. Customers can see the rules and adjust these rules, but also see if their customers are interacting and making any changes or recategorizing, and then they can make improvements to make that accuracy even higher, dependent on their actions. So I know those were a couple rushed demos, but I just wanted to give you a quick view of how we're trying to address these the different strategies for different customers, and really that's where we've seen different strategies for different customers, are important to them, and how we can sort of partner with banks and financial institutions to enable them to meet their strategies, to create that experience that they're trying to achieve for that end user, and in turn to build that trust, and advocacy with their client base. And what we're also doing is, Johan was also mentioning earlier in the previous session around innovation and how things are changing. With our being within the group of CRIF, CRIF are predominantly been around credit bureaus, insurance, and understand that market, and have a few different products, for instance, like a digital booster, which is providing a streamlined experience for insurances. For instance, they might detect, through geolocation, that you are at an airport, and offer you travel insurance, for instance. And what we're doing is actually, working together and integrating, the Engager product to actually have that early, step to understand, that transaction, to understand that category spend, maybe in, buying a flight, or, hotel or travel expenses have gone up, to actually provide that action, earlier, to say, you've got this flight, we believe you're traveling, would you like to have a look at some travel insurance? And then, with that streamlined process, removing, a few of the steps, understanding that customer more, having to ask less questions through single sign-on and etc. It's a lot more streamlined process. It's relevant to the customer. And because, it's timely, we've seen, the actions and conversion rates go up 20-30%, at some banks because of that. So it's just, different ways that we are sort of moving with the market to understand, that there are so many different engagements and digital tools, and leveraging those and trying to provide them as actions for our customers. And we'll be having a session next week, as a CRIF and Strands family, to show some of this information. So I know we don't have much time, but if there's any, questions, I'll be happy to address those at this moment.
Thank you, Richard. While we wait for the audience to key in their questions, right? That was a really great use of the demos and the customer use cases. We did have one which came through earlier, which talked about your earlier slide, right? When you talk about Hsbc Kinetic, which is the first insight-driven digital bank in the UK. How do you see the trend developing for insight-driven banks in Asia?
Okay, yeah, that's a good question. Yeah, I believe, the Asian market, we've seen, personalization being more of a sort of a drive towards, with few banks, already going that route. But I think it's a global trend, not just, Asia or Europe or the US. We've seen across the globe, really, the interactions are, and what that people are doing. Yes, there might be slightly different strategies, dependent on the region, but just to provide those insights, that relevancy and personalization, we've seen that as a sort of a trend across the globe, and something that, more and more banks are doing. And, if you're not doing it, you're almost, again, starting to fall behind. And it's something that, is going to be sort of become the norm very soon, I believe.
And the next question was, can you elaborate more on the part about the next best actions throughout the customer journey?
Sure. So the next best action, again, this depends on really the insight. It might be, for instance, a high balance, that we detect as an insight that might trigger, and then we'll, decide with the bank or, what their strategy is, for that. So maybe they would like to offer some sort of savings product, or understand, if it's open banking, to understand that there's a balance in another area, and to, move that into a transfer into their account because of a better interest rate. So it depends on really what the bank's trying to achieve, but it would be, an action to transfer money, to apply for an overdraft, speak to a relationship manager, etc. But, trying to understand what the trigger is, so that we can give an action for that customer.
I think that's all the time we have for questions today. Thanks so much, Richard, for sharing with us your insights, and also, for being up really early in the morning and joining us for today.
No problem. Thanks for having me. And if there's any sort of questions, people feel free to get in touch with me. That'll be great. Thank you.
Richard, thanks again.